Hi, my name is Ada Hughes, and today I'm going to teach you how to play heavy metal gallop. If you're new to my channel, please go ahead and hit the subscribe button. I'm a guitar teacher for over 10 years, and today I'd like to teach you about these heavy metal gallops, which are an integral part of heavy metal rhythm playing. I'd like to split this lesson up into two sections. First of all, looking at the timing, and secondly, looking at the technique. So first of all, we're going to look at the timing. Now, a gallop is a series of 3 notes within a beat. And the way we make this galloping sound, very similar to the Lone Ranger theme tune of those of you of a certain age, is by playing 2 16th notes and an 8th note within the beat. Now, depending on how we arrange those 2 16th and 8th notes, we get a slightly different gallop. So let's have a look at the 2 ways of playing it. If we pop the 8th note at the start of the beat, you'll get this type of rhythm, which is affectionately known as the Iron Maiden Gallop, and you'll hear it in lots of the famous songs. So it's an 8th note followed by 2 16ths, and if you're counting that, that's 1 and a. So we're missing out the E within the 16th note framework. Strum and direction being down, down, up for each particular beat. Now, if you've ever studied banjo, you might know that as a bum-diddy rhythm. Quite often it's quite hard to count these types of rhythms at high speed, so you can use a vocalization. And bum-diddy is bum-diddy, 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 bum-diddy. And that gives you that type of gallop. 2 takes, a drink. You know on YouTube when you have a cup of tea during the lesson. So that's your first gallop. The other way to play it is to play the 2 16th note first, followed by an 8th note. And that gives you this type of sound. So very, very similar. Very difficult to actually tell the difference. Certainly played solo like this. However, if we did have other instruments, certainly with a drum kit nearby, it's really important that we get those rhythms nice and tight and accurately. And that second one, 2 16ths followed by an 8th note, so 1 E and would be your count, and down, up, down for each beat. Again, if you want to vocalise that, the guy who taught me this particular rhythm told me to count that as a Jaffa cake. Jaffa cake, Jaffa cake, Jaffa cake, Jaffa cake. And it gives you that nice sort of galloped rhythm in that sense. So in terms of timing, very simple. 2 16th notes and an 8th note, depending whether you put the 8th note at the start or the end, will give you a slightly different gallop. If you put the 8th note in the middle, you'll get a very slightly different thing, but it's not really a gallop. And if I vocalised it, it would sound like banana, which isn't really much of a gallop. But still very useful, and you can certainly put that into your rhythm playing. Now, for the technique, this is probably where most people struggle, because it's a technique that requires a good bit of stamina, and to have stamina you need to make sure your technique is accurate, otherwise you'll be fighting all the time and you're going to quickly become tired. So we need to look at how to position the hand and the pick and that type of thing, and then it will make it much easier for you to play these gallops for long periods of time, which if you are playing metal music you will be doing so. So let's start off with the hand position and where it needs to be. Now, with a gallop, the sound is a little bit muffled when we play it in a heavy metal sense. Not if you're going to play it in other styles, and we have gallops in other styles, but in heavy metal we want a nice dampened effect with a slight bit of palm muting. So palm muting is where you put, the palm of your hand on the edge of the strings, and rather than having a chord sustained like that, you just sound a bit more dampened with palm muting. And we want to have that sound throughout the gallop. It also helps you have some decent tonal setting on this. I'm just using presets because I'm lazy. But basically, you want a decent bit of gain and make sure the treble setting is turned up. And if you want to go really old-fashioned, you can completely scoop out the middle setting, take that out, and that'll give you that kind of 80s vibe, if you like. but certainly you want a nice pushed and trebly setting. And you also want a solid pick. Don't try and do this with a soft pick, it just won't work. Make sure you've got something nice and solid. Whichever pick you want to use is up to you, just make sure it's solid. So we have that nice bitey sound that we need while slightly being a little bit muffled. So the way we angle the pick and we angle our hand is going to help us achieve that. So what I'd like you to do, if you haven't done this before, is to take your hand, and now normally if you're used to doing, let's say, funk rhythms and strumming, that kind of thing, you probably already be used to kind of hanging it above your guitar and having this wrist nice and loose. Unfortunately, what you can't do is then just take that straight into the guitar and try and play these rhythms in that sense. It becomes very cramped and you will quickly become tired. Having your hand in this kind of straight arm position with it over here isn't a bad thing. It's great for kind of blues playing and such, but for metal rhythms you need to change this. So rather than having it in this flat position, what I'd like you to do is go back to this kind of sort of hanging arm position, but then bring it around the side so that the edge of your palm, so this part of your palm, is just gently resting on the edge of the strings. And you will see that your wrist is pointing outwards, pointing across the inside of your wrist there. You don't want the inside of that wrist pointing on the guitar. That will make you very confined with this particular technique. So you want it nice and open, so a nice flexed position. What that will automatically do is that means that when you put your pick into the string to keep your wrist open, you'll have a slight angle with your thumb. So when you're picking normally, you'll probably have your thumb parallel to the strings, like that. With this one, you'll probably have it at a slight angle. Okay, so that will give you a slightly different angle of attack. You'll also find this almost automatically, if it doesn't, you might just slightly change the way you hold the pick, puts a slight angle on the pick. You don't want to be picking flush with the strings, you want a slight angle. That slight angle just helps add a bit of a bite to the strings. It's only, half a millimeter's difference if you're holding it flush already, so it's not going to be much of a change there. So really what we're looking at is having that wrist open and then bringing the pick into the strings. And that means you've got a nice bent wrist, which allows you to have that kind of flexion action, which aids playing for a long period of time. There's no tension in that kind of feel there. Placing your hand against the guitar like that and doing this, we're then just going to do these rhythms. So if we do the Iron Maiden rhythm, which is downstroke followed by down up, so an 8th flute and 2/16, you get that type of sound. And what we're looking at is trying not to be too focused on the wrist here. The wrist is definitely going to be very much involved, but you want to be as loose as you can. Almost try and throw your hand through this, try and jog it using other parts of your arm. If you can do that, then you'll find that there's not going to be any tension going through your wrist here. As soon as you start feeling that tension, something's not right. You just need to review what you're doing, make sure you're keeping it open, make sure it's as loose as it possibly can be, and try and just throw your wrist through this action. In terms of the strings of strumming, I just chose a power chord there. You can do this on a single string if you want. There's not much difference. But we're looking to get that nice palm muted feeling. Now you might find how far across the strings you place your hand, you get a slightly different sound. Generally speaking, you don't want too much of a palm mute. It could be a little bit too much. You just want to kind of dampen it at first and then move it around owing to taste, depending on what you're trying to achieve. So really, and this is why I sat at this angle, it's all about keeping that wrist outwards. And that's what I would concentrate on if I were you in terms of getting this right. I'm presuming you're going to be comfortable with your left hand at this point of your playing. So you can just watch your right hand. And just ensure that wrist always stays in that open position. Okay, so you don't want it kind of coming in at all, and you don't want to straighten it. And equally, you don't want to be trying to force this with your right hand, try and do too much with the pick or too much from the wrist. Try and throw it from the arm. That nice loose feeling. Go and check out my funk strumming lesson if you haven't already. That will help with this type of thing. And keep that nice and loose feeling, and just try and bring that action into the guitar. And you get these lovely gallops coming up. And that's it. Do practice with metronome for this. You can practice this at a reasonably slow rate. However, you do need momentum for this particular technique, so don't slow it down too much. Probably about 80 would be a good 80 BPM would be a good start point, I would say, for this type of thing. But really, it's just about trying to ensure you can count those rhythms, so you comfortably know which particular gallop you're playing. If you're not counting it right, if you haven't got the right timing, it will have no effect whatsoever on your music. It needs to be spot on. And then the technique-wise, it's all about keeping that wrist open. That's the most important thing in this. Make sure your wrist is open and not pressing flat against the strings, and that will allow you to play this kind of stuff for a long time. And trying to leave any tension in your arm, be as loose as you possibly can. Just throwing that wrist into small motions with the arm, just kind of jogging it, and then that will allow you to play this kind of stuff for decent periods. I'll stop the lesson there. If you have any tips of your own, please feel free to share them in the comment section below. Please go and check out some of my other videos. Like, comment, subscribe. That's what YouTubers say these days, isn't it? Otherwise, take care for now, and I will see you soon. Thank you very much.